Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday, the 8th of October 2020. With the peasant, the prodigious, the prominent professor, proclamation, news and gatherance. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, UK politics. Flux with the news, flux for the show. Here we go. Are you all looking forward to it today? We've had money morals, money morals. We've had all kinds of provocations. Them two children at university committed suicide over narcotic abuse. Narcotic abuse. We're going to start off with UK politics. We've got Theresa May, UK politics, ladies and please, please join in. Feel free to join in. I'm the capital P in proclamation. I'm the capital P in persuasion. I'm the capital P in persuasive. I'm the capital P in punctuation. I'm the capital P in provocative. I'm the capital P in propaganda. I'm the capital P in purity. I'm the capital P in progressive. I'm the capital P in progression. I'm the capital P in philanthropist. I'm the capital P in populism. Proclamation, news and gatherance, ladies and gents. Here we go. Today's formation. Theresa May attacks ill-conceived planning reforms, ladies and gents. Theresa May attacks ill-conceived planning reforms. UK politics. Theresa May has criticised the government's proposed changes to the planning system for being ill-conceived and mechanistic. The former Prime Minister said the use of the formula to assess housing need in England does not guarantee a single extra home being built. Commons debated a motion from another Tory MP asking ministers to think again about its reforms. The government has said the plan is still part of a consultation. It needed to reform a system that was opaque, painfully slow, and almost uniquely discouraging for all but the most expert navigators, it added. The motion proposed by the Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley urged the government to delay the introduction of the new system, which he raised concerns among Tory backbenchers until the Commons had a chance to fully debate and hold a meaningful vote on it. MPs backed the motion, which is non-binding on the government. Bear with me 2 secs, my lovelies. Going back to it. Urban sprawl. During the debate, Mr. Seeley said it was time to stop the drift of jobs and opportunities to the south, to the sheers and the suburbs. He added that using an algorithm to plan housing supplies would hollow out our cities, urbanize or suburbs, and suburbanize the countryside. Mr. Seeley gave the Commons some examples, saying that over 15 years the algorithm would mean 14,000 fewer homes being built in Manchester, but 10,000 more in East Cheshire. The number for Nottingham would fall by 3,700, while the number for Nottinghamshire would rise by 25,000, he said. And in Southampton, the number would fall by 2,500, compared with the 26,000 increase from Hampshire. Mr. Seeley said the glaring exception among the cities was among where houses building would have to rise by an astonishing amount. Sucking growth. Miss May, who is the MP of Maidenhead, said, "This is a mechanistic approach and it is ill-conceived. The planning system needs to ensure a right number of homes are built in the right places," she added. arguing that the algorithm builds up planning permissions, but not houses. The government needs to think again, and this and its need to understand the impact the proposal it put forward is going to have, Miss May has said. Former Labour Shadow Minister Mike Amsbury said councils rather than central government must be in the driving seat if we are to create a decent, safe, affordable housing for all. Government consultation of the algorithm closed last week, but its consultation on the wider proposals is open until the 29th of October. Altogether, 39 MPs spoke in the debate. Responding House Minister Chris Pincher said own a home was fundamental Conservative value and he wanted more people, especially young people, to realise that aspiration. He added that the proposal was to encourage more community involvement and stronger environmental protections. Mr. Pincher said the common way of calculating housing in need that inconsistent with the Conservative election manifesto promised to build 300,000 homes a year by the mid 2020s. The figures being bandied about were entirely speculative until the government responded to the findings of its consultation, he told MPs. 300,000 homes by the mid 220s. Where are they going to put them? Where are they going to put the houses? They're going to build houses on top of houses, or we're going to build houses in the middle of fields, take over our farmland. It's a little bit funny, isn't it? Bianca Williams, stop and search. Met PT's face misconduct hearings. 5 Met police officers face misconduct hearings over the stop and search of British athlete Bianca Williams and her partner. Bianca Williams and Ricardo dos Santos had her baby son in the car and believed they were racially profiled when they were stopped in Maid Valley on the 4th of July. The Met referred itself to the Independent Office and Police Conduct (IOPC), Independent Office Police Conduct. After the footage was widely shared, Sal Nassim said the threshold for the misconduct investigation had been met. The Met had said officers were patrolling the area in which Miss Williams was stopped because of an increase in youth violence. Commonwealth Games gold medalist Williams, 26, accused the Met of racially profiling her partner for driving a black Mercedes 3 days after the incident, footage of which was shared widely on social media. Do you think it's racial profiling if they get stopped just because you're coloured, not because you look like a drug dealer because you are coloured? Is that racist? I don't know. Maybe it is. The Met apologised to Miss Williams, 26. Some white people can look like criminals as well. I don't know if they start saying the same thing. I really don't know. Just saying. I've got a lot of black folks in my family, mum, aunties, uncles, even my best mates, my brothers, you know. Force also referred itself to the IOPC despite 2 reviews by the Force's Directorate of Professional Standards concluding there had been no misconduct. The 5 officers will now be investigated for potential breach of police standards of professional behaviour relating to use of force. Oh, you're using force, that's a whole different matter. Yeah, I see where she's coming from. Duties and responsibilities and authority, respect and courtesy of the IOPC said in a statement. The IOPC said an independent investigation will focus on 7 points, including why Mr. Dos Santos' car was followed and stopped, whether the force used against Mr. Dos Santos and Miss Williams was lawful, necessary, reasonable, and proportionate. It is also being questioned why a Merlin report and a Met-run database that stores information on a child who have become known to police for any reason who was created for William's son. Investigators will also look at whether Williams or Dos Santos were treated less favourably because of their race, as well as their accuracy of the accounts provided by the officers and the appropriateness of the communications. issued by the Met. The IOPC statement said it would look at whether there were grounds for Dos Santos to be kept in handcuffs while he had been searched. It added in relation to Mrs. Williams for potential breaches, which will be further investigated, including taking hold or without having sought her cooperation with the search, handcuffing initially and continuing to handcuff her after she had been researched, her continued detention and whether there were grounds to do so. There you go. Was that a misconduct by the police? Was that a misconduct by the police? What do you think? What are your, do you think that's a misconduct force on a, in what officer? Perhaps, yeah, perhaps depends. What did he look like? Did he look a bit sneaky? Did he have a big bag on his back? Question there, isn't there? Did he look sneaky because he had a pair of shades on? Who's here? Thank you for coming together, ladies and gents, whoever that's watching me. Um, People who are actually coming in supporting the show day in, day out. I really appreciate your time spent. People, new listeners coming, subscribing, sharing, really means a lot. Getting more supporters on the show, I really appreciate. Thank you very much, Sharon. I appreciate that. I'm on YouTube as well under my name, which is up there on Proclamation News and Gavins. If you want to follow me on YouTube, because I'm looking straight ahead of me on my screen. It's bona fide conservatism, ladies and gents. Just got real. Thank you all for coming through this evening. COVID MPs call for more clarity on local lockdowns. This is what people want. This is what we're waiting for. What's going to happen in the near future of the local lockdowns? What's closing down? Imagine they close supermarkets down. What would we do then? You have to go and fetch on farm food. Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sharon. MPs from the Midlands and Northern England are calling for more detail on possible plans to close restaurants and pubs in areas worst hit by the coronavirus. Restaurants and pubs to be closed by coronavirus. They met ministers earlier, with some venting frustration about potential restrictions appearing in the newspaper before being announced in Parliament. A tiered system of measures could be introduced next Wednesday in an effort to stall rising infection rates. The government said it was trying to create greater consistency on rules. There were 17,540 new cases of coronavirus recorded in the UK on Thursday, up from the 14,162 reported the day before. Government data showed a further 77 people died after testing positive of the virus within 28 days. How many of them 77 victims were sporadic knife crime? MPs took, I shouldn't joke, but yeah, shouldn't joke. Moving on. Sorry about that. MPs took part in the video call in the Health Ministers Nadine Dorries and Edward Arger and England's Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty early on Thursday. Chief Medical Officer presented evidence to the MPs that a significant proportion of the exposure to coronavirus was happening in the hospitality sector, but nothing more is shown on the scope, sovereignty, timing, or precise location of any restrictions. So, Donald Trump is saying that he's going to be coming out of hospital in time for his election. Joe Biden does not want him to come out because he still thinks he's in conviction. Well, he's got, he's supposed to, and you're supposed to quarantine, put yourself in isolation after you've had COVID anyway. Shouldn't be going out for the election, should he? Absolutely not. Anyway, moving on to UK politics, where we was. Yet again, ministers are wrestling with grim trades of where no decision is pain-free. But they're also wrestling with a communication challenge. What do you do when newspaper have been briefed that the restaurants and pubs North Force are shut down? As the Times front page headline reads today, but it hasn't yet been formally decided and announced. Well, Cabinet Minister ends up doing all the round of interviews where he or she can't answer any questions directly, precisely which parts of the country will be affected by the new regulations, when, for how long, and how severe will they be. Cue noisy grumbles from local leaders in those cities with sky-high infection rates. Why, who do not know what is going to happen? Yet most of the leaders are Labour politicians, not averse to complaining about the Conservative government, but ministers are left with an announcement that appears half-made. The prospect that various businesses may have to close significantly scale back what they do, but without it being clear which ones or where. Profound changes affecting millions of people hover as an imminent prospect, but ask a specific question, and the answer is we don't know. Ben Bradley, Conservative MP from Mansfield, who took part in the call, said, "There are some really challenging circumstances. We talked about the Northwest and the Northeast in particular. We were talking about in 3 weeks' time having hospitalisation levels higher than any in the original peak." He said ministers had told the MPs to expect new measures to be announced on Monday and implemented on Wednesday. One Labour MP on the call described it as largely a PR exercise featuring lots of graphs. The meeting came amid growing anger among politicians about the way government has handled new restrictions in parts of the country with high infection rates. Labour Mayor of the Great Manchester, Andy Burnham, told the BBC he has been having discussions with the minister this week. At no point did somebody say we're closing all hospitality in the North of England on Monday. London centric. Former Minister Jake Berry, the Conservative MP for Rosendale and Darwin, has accused the Prime Minister of enjoying his emergency powers a little bit too much and being London centric. The Conservative MP from Bishop Auckland, Deanna Davidson, said in the Commons that the government was exactly right to take a localised approach. But she said that the public in some areas of her constituency do not understand what they face local restrictions when the case numbers were low. Liverpool's Labour Metro Mayor Steve Rotherham said the North should not be a pretty dish of experimentation by the central government. MPs have also expressed unease about so-called Rule 6 and the 10 p.m. curfew from pubs and restaurants, calling scientific rationale behind the measures to be made public. But Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has said his party will not be voting down the curfew next week, instead saying the rule needs to be reformed. Others on the left Labour Party, including Shallow Chancellor John McDonnell, want a more severe lockdown. One told the BBC they wanted a zero COVID approach, hard, fast and backed up by the comprehensive testing and financial support. Community Secretary Robert Jenrick has not ruled out the pubs being closed, but said the response would be a proportionate and localised. He told the BBC the precise measures for different areas would be announced in the coming days. Mr Jenrick added that the government will be trying to the greater constituency on the rules, so they are easier to understand, and was working on slightly broader canvases of regions of cities and countries to avoid differences in people's daily lives if they drive over the border. The government is expected to introduce a new three-tier approach to coronavirus restrictions in local areas of England. In an effort to simplify the system and avoid public confusion, the BBC understands, but details of how severe restrictions will be in each tier have yet to be confirmed. Absolute phenomenal, isn't it? It's always bona fide conservatism when you come in my room. Always flux with a show. It's 19 cases everywhere, all over the shop. Coronavirus, another 1.6 thousand cases. Newcastle students tested positive. 1,600 Newcastle students tested positive. Further 1,600 students has been tested positive for coronavirus at Newcastle's two universities. Newcastle University said 1,003 students and 12 members of staff were confirmed to have COVID-19 the past week, compared with 94 last Friday. There was also 619 cases in Northumbria University, which last week said 770 people had contracted the illness since mid-September. There will be about 100 cases at Durham and 102 among Sunderland students. Newcastle and Northumbria universities have moved the majority of teaching online. Newcastle said the overwhelming majority of cases had arisen to the social or residential settings and it was competent, appropriate measures were in place to protect everyone on campus. That's an extraordinary amount of people with convicted of COVID-19. You don't realise how risky business this COVID-19 is. There you have it. There you have it. If you open your ears, you ain't got your COVID mask, you ain't washing your hands. There you have it. It's right in front of you. I said when I was talking about it before, if it's conspiracy for or not, don't take it lightly. Don't be silly. Make sure you got COVID mask on. Wash your hands. Put your mask on. Not for the sake of yourself, for the sake of others. There you had it. 1,600 students in Newcastle's two universities. That is an amicable amount, absolutely amicable amount of COVID convictions. COVID convictions. COVID convictions. You been convicted of COVID? Behave yourself. Put your mask on. Wash your hands. Newcastle said the overwhelming majority of cases had risen from the social and residential settings, and it was competent appropriate measures were in place to protect everyone on campus. Students who are isolating or in quarantine receive a help package including access to mental health support, food vouchers, and help with laundry added. Northumbria said it continued to make excessive efforts to provide support for these self-isolating students with online concierge services on food parcels delivered by staff and students' union. Why am I not getting this? I need to go to Newcastle. The organisation moved to online teaching was announced on Wednesday and came on the Northumbria staff voted to ballot for strike action over Murray's adult face-to-face lectures. The switch will be reviewed on the 23rd of October. Meanwhile, Newcastle University's Vice Chancellor, Professor Chris Day, has raised concern over the behaviour of COVID marshals enforcing restrictions, who he said reported to have burst in on students. Professor Day, speaking at a civic meeting attended by Newcastle City Council and Northumbria Police, said he wanted reassurance that they are not alone, lone wolves, out there doing what they like, which is the impression that I'm getting from our students, according to the local democracy reporting service. Chief suspect Jed Noble confirmed council assisted police in providing accredited marshals and they were initially deployed to the areas of high student population, but are now going to be deployed alongside neighbourhood officers. That is not necessarily a light touch. Where enforcement action is required, we will take it, he said. But we are working very closely with the marshals, who, to be fair, are doing very challenging roles, and it is a new role for them as well. Elsewhere, about 20 miles, 32 kilometres away from Durham University, students living at the two of its 17 colleges have been asked to remain on the campus and only attend activities managed by the universities for 7 days. It comes about 50 to 300 students living at St Mary College and 50 of the 500 at Collingwood College tested positive. That is extraordinary. Extraordinary. This is why it's so important to be wearing your COVID mask. People taking the absolute biscuit, thinking, let's take some risks. Take some risks when go around shop. Let's not put a mask on. Are you one of them people? Ask yourself, are you one of them people? COVID-19, new restrictions to be announced for parts of England within days. Jenrick has said. Jenrick has said. New measures of tackle coronavirus have been announced in the coming days, as the minister says. After BBC told pubs and restaurants to be closed in the worst affected areas in England, there could always be a ban on overnight stays from home in locations which include North and Midlands. Communities Secretary Robert Jenrick said the government was currently considering what steps to take. A free tier system for local lockdown is likely to be announced. Under the system, different parts of our country will be placed in different categories, although ministers are still discussing the precise details of the toughest level of restrictions over the next couple of days. The final decision on the time period or extent of potential closure has not yet been made by the formal announcement. It is not likely to come until Monday, BBC political editor Laura Kuenberg said. It comes as North England and Midlands MPs have been briefed by the health ministers and chief medical advisor Chris Whitty about the latest coronavirus data. Number of people in the UK have tested positive by coronavirus rose by 17,414 increases by 3,378 on Wednesday figures, with a 37 deaths reported. Some politicians in the North of England and Midlands have shared their frustration about the plans appearing in newspapers before being announced in Parliament. Labour Mayor Great Manchester Andy Burnham told BBC, if it's urgent, give us the detail, give us the evidence behind the proposals. Let's discuss it and let's agree quickly. Meanwhile, Labour has challenged to the government publish the scientific evidence behind 20 BST closing time for pubs and restaurants in England. Sir Keir Starmer party said voted down the measure of common next Tuesday about policy needs to be reformed. Downing Street said the data suggests a significant proportion of coronavirus exposure was in the hospitality sector, especially in younger age groups, but pressed on whether the government would publish evidence on the issue. Mr. Jenrick told BBC it's common sensual is that the longer you stay in the pubs and restaurants, the more likely you are to come into contact with other individuals. The more drinks that people have, the more likely some people are to break the rules. Absolutely. He added that it is right to take action decisively rather than waiting for the most detailed epidemiological evidence to emerge. On the possibility of additional restrictions on some parts of England, Mr. Jenrick did not rule out the pubs being closed, but said the response would be proportionate and localised. He added the government was trying to give a greater constituency as rules, and so are they easier to understand. And there was work on a slightly broader canvas and regions of the cities and countries to avoid differences in people's daily lives if they drive over the border. I mean, if you drink more, you're going to be more likely to be in contact with COVID-19. Absolutely. It's a complicated equation. Department of Health is worried about the spread of the disease, as well as other patients losing out on other treatments because of the focus on COVID. Number 11 is fearful about impact on the economy, which has already been profound a shock. And it's number 10's job to worry about all of it, then reach a conclusion. But Boris Johnson also knows his own MPs and the opposition parties are more and more sceptical as each day passes about what government proposes. It's clear that shutting pubs and restaurants is a possibility, the circuit breaker that we have talked about of lots of times. But there are many questions still to be settled. Hope you enjoy the show. Flux for the show. No business like UK politics business. The planned tightening of restrictions in parts of England follows rising infection rates across much of the country, which academically and medical colleges warning the NHS is a risk of becoming overwhelmed. Liverpool, Manchester and Newcastle up to the time the highest infection rates in the country, according to the department and health data. And figures compiled by BBC the 7-day to 4th October, suggesting Derby, Strabane district an even higher COVID-19 infection rate. From Friday, all pubs and restaurants of central Scotland, including Glasgow, Edinburgh, are too close, while the rest of Scotland hospitality vendors shut at 18 BST, and alcohol can only be served outdoors. But industry leaders are warned the measures could be the final straw for many businesses. Proclamation news and gatherings. Absolute populism. Thank you all so much for coming through. All the people coming actually together. Absolute millions listening on YouTube right now. But one listener. I'm overwhelmed. I'm here every day. Doesn't matter if it's one. Doesn't matter if there's none. It doesn't matter if there's 100. It's methodical madness. It's methodical correctness. It's my job. Love it or you hate it. It's like Marmite, but I love it. God bless. Take care. One love. Speak soon. Thank you so much.